Alrighty, here we are on the notes for 6.20 composite area problems. And if you remember, composite area is kind of like, when there's more than one shape, we have to do some breaking up to find the area of a shaded region in this case. So number one says find the composite area of the shaded region. Use 3.14 for pi. So remember, area of a circle is pi r squared. Okay, so we're going to have to find the r's, the radii here for each of these circles, and I highly suggest you do some labeling. So like I have labels, I have to do an outside circle, and then I also have to do an inside circle. So for my outside circle, that means going from the center all the way out to the outermost edge, so kind of ignoring that shaded part. My radius would be 3. So this would be A equals 3.14 times 3 squared, which would end up being 3.14 times 9. And when you multiply that, you get 28.26. Okay, now my inside circle, my radius is like going from the middle just to where the shaded region starts. So this would be A equals 3.14 times 2 squared, which would be 3.14. 2 times 2 is 4. So 3.14 times 4 gives you 12.56. Now, remember, I only want the shaded region, so it's like finding the difference between the two. So we have that outside part, and we're going to take away that inner circle, that 12.56, and then we'll just be left with the shaded region, which would be 15.7, and we would just say units squared in this case because we don't know if it's inches or feet or whatnot. Okay? Number 2 is also very similar. It says a yard is shown with the shaded section indicating grassy areas and unshaded sections indicating paved areas. Find the area of the space covered with grass in square units. So we want the space covered with grass, which is the shaded region. Okay, so now if you think about it, they've given us 3 rectangles. Do we need to find the outermost rectangle? Well, no. Okay, so like don't be fooled into finding more than you have to find. So we'll start with finding the shaded region first. The shaded, remember the area, these are rectangles, area would be length times width. So my shaded region, my length going across the bottom here would be 1, 2, 3 units times my height going up would be 1, 2 units. So my area here would be 6. And then I just said we need to take out that little square on the inside because that's what's paved. So you could just say unshaded or inside, whatever labels you like. I just like labels because it helps you get organized. So this area, let's see, this one, it's kind of hard to tell. This is going out, I would say these are going out to about 1/4 on each side. So we could say, 2/4 make 1/2. So 1/2 times my height, this is going from about 1/2 up to another 1/2. So times 1. So this would be just 1/2. All right, that's a little tricky to see. So again, then we want to take our shaded region and subtract our unshaded region. So 6 minus 1/2 would give us 5.5, and it would be units squared, which is what they said to use. Okay. So moving on here, let's see. I'm going to skip this one because we've done a fair bit of these problems back in like 6.18, 6.17. So if you need help with something like this, look back in your notes. But I will do exercise 2. So find the area of the shaded region, use 3.14 for pi. Okay, so I'm going to do some labeling again. So here we have a triangle, and we have a, oh, that's not how you spell semicircle, and we have a semicircle. Okay, so area of a triangle is base times height divided by 2. Area of a semicircle would be pi r squared divided by 2. Okay, so looking at the triangle, we know what the base is. We know oh boy, got a mind of its own today. So we have the base is 14 times, we don't know the height, but we know that the radius is 4. So that means like from here to here is 4. So if we went all the way across, the diameter would end up being 8. And we're going to take that and we're going to divide that by 2. So when you type that in your calculator, you end up getting 56. Then the semicircle, we have A equals, they said 3.14 for pi, times the r, they gave us the r, 4 squared, and then divide by 2. So you end up doing 3.14 times 16, all divided by 2. And when you get all that, you get 25.12. And now they want us to find the area of the shaded region. Well, it's all shaded, so we're not going to subtract here. We're going to end up adding 56 plus 25.12. So we get 81.12. And it's centimeters here. And it'd be squared. Okay. So the last page here, I would say these are probably the trickiest ones. I want to do, we'll skip the top one, but I do want to do the bottom one for now. Okay. All right, so this one says find the area of the shaded region. The figure is not drawn to scale. Okay, that's usually just assumed. They really wanted you to know that in this question. So we have a lot going on. All right, even this shape G, like that's not a shape we can just find the area of because it's got that little like added triangle bit off to the left. Okay, so we're going to do some labeling here. So if you think about it, we've got, so this up top here in the top left, I'm going to call this triangle D. Okay, so we got this guy here. Sometimes this is hard to visually see. And now down here in the bottom, we have this entire triangle. I'm going to call this triangle C. That's the hardest one to see, okay, because you kind of have to block out that line that goes through it in the middle. All right, and then we also have these squares. So I'll call this square on the right will be square A, and then this guy will be square B. Okay, so I'm going to start by finding the area of the squares first. So square A, our area, remember area of a square is length times width. So this area would be 3 times 3, which would be 9. Okay, and if I do the area of square B, my area would be 2 times 2 in this case, which would be 4. Okay, so those are the easiest, guys. Now, let's take a look at triangle C here. So triangle C, it's the base times the height divided by 2. So my base is going all the way across here, so I have to add my 2 and my 3. So this would be 5 times my height is 2, and then I have to divide it by 2. So it would be 10 divided by 2, which would be 5. And then I've got triangle D. Triangle D, technically, my base isn't labeled, but remember, in a square, all the sides are the same. So this would be a 3 for my base, times my height is 3, divided by 2. So then I end up with 9 divided by 2, which gives me 4.5. Okay, so now we are gonna, so we've got these, the 2 squares are what we started with. So I'm gonna add those. We've got the 9 plus 4 gives us 13. And now we're going to take that 13 and we're going to take away those triangles and we will be left with just what's shaded there. So I'm going to have 13 minus the 5 minus the 4.5, which will give me 3.5 units, oh my, squared in the end. I'm sorry, not units, it's in centimeters. But you know, when in doubt, you can put units squared, centimeters squared. Okay, so that's all we'll do in the video. But if you have any questions about these, they are a little tricky, feel free to ask.